The advocacy of preserving the environment has always focused on the individual advocated campaign like avoiding the use of plastic, bringing your own bags instead of one-time use plastic bags, etc. Surrounding these suggestions expose two questions. First, will the employment of individual actions make a huge impact? Second, is plastic avoidable? To answer the first question, Michael Miniat gave his answer that waste only from individual level will not ease the problem's severity, while the second question's response was also apparent. Plastic still constitutes a considerable part of our daily life. A typical example of plastic existence in our daily life is the plastic water bottle. An astonishing figure exposed the reason why our era was called the Anthropocene. Only 23% of plastic bottles are recycled within the US, while the rest of it ended up in the Great Pacific garbage patch. One of the recent human constructions illustrated one idea that Crusoe raised for why calling this era Anthropocene. Mankind will remain a major environmental force for many millennia. Further data demonstrated this idea. According to EPA's data, in 2017, over 75% of the plastic waste ends up in a landfill. Then it comes to the question for people to ask why humans didn't replace plastic. People may first answer by saying what I have said. We did a campaign against plastic, but individual efforts are often not globally significant. I believe this answers means we need an institutional level of change. Then the question referred to why didn't we take in action? The water packaging industry may offer us a very typical answer as the data showed before. I prepared three objects for the comparison. Plastic water bottle and its two substitutes. Aluminum cans and glass water bottle. So the first item in my hand is a plastic water bottle. Initially invented in 1862 and presented at a great international exhibition in London, the plastic bottle didn't catch people's eye due to its high production cost. Until the 1970s, when PET bottle came into the world, the plastic bottle became a good option. Gained its popularity quickly across the globe, the purchase of plastic water bottles climaxed in recent years. An astonishing figure is reviewed by National Geographic claimed that in 2017 a million plastic beverage bottles was purchased every minute. Worth noticing is its influence across the globe was not only in the mineral water area. A 2019 news report titled Coca-Cola chooses plastic bottle collection over aluminum cans. They claim that PET bottle has a much lower carbon footprint, which means that it served as a better long-term answer than switching to cans. Very surprising, isn't it? One beverage company announced the reason to push more resources into environmental efforts through more emphasis on a commonly believed product to be detrimental to the environment. What happened to the other two products, glass bottle and aluminum cans? In the peak of their popularity, aluminum cans were more ubiquitous and commercially successful. As a news report reviewed in 1981, another kind of bottle was prevalent in popular aluminum cans. Crown Cork and Seal.co, one of the most famous aluminum cans manufacturers, projected $1.5 billion on its sales, an incredible number of at that period. Aluminum cans are also recyclable. They are very small and easy to carry with. Then why plastic bottle almost replaced its market? I will go back to that later, but we need to first review our last project object, a glass bottle. I had a very personal tie with a glass bottle. It is actually that this green, delicate, beautiful Perrier green glass bottle that illuminates my thinking on composing such a cabinet. As the environmental campaign was very popular during my first meeting with the Perrier, it made me wonder why until today, after almost a century of Perrier's popularity, it remained as Perrier's pronouns, while not being a substitute for plastic in the environmental campaign. These wonders lead to the comparison that I'm going to elaborate on. First, let's think about the glass bottle versus plastic bottle. Why does glass lose the battle here? As I'm focusing on institutional level, I'll pay more attention on humans as collectivity and institutional level impacts. Researching on that, I found glass with several limitations that makes it a bad option. First, people need to be aware that glass production involves sand, which means that it may result in the shore cities being open to the ocean's threats through flooding and erosion. Besides, the durability of glass would also not make it a good substitute for the plastic. The heavier weight the glass bottle may bring would also make the emission of carbon dioxide more massive. A change in the institutional level of the water bottle's material probably would be a good option for individuals to comfort themselves that they are doing good to the environment as individuals, even though the overall impact may be worsened to the environment. Second, let's move on to see the aluminum cans versus plastic bottle. Why Coca-Cola favor plastic bottles over aluminum cans? It was worth noticing that aluminum cans have better recyclability than plastic bottles. The problem became complicated. A research claimed that aluminum cans have higher ecological footprint involved in the production, twice the carbon emission than that of a plastic bottle. The cost of producing an aluminum can is also higher than that of a plastic bottle. However, the problem will get more complicated due to other involved possible costs and consumers' preference. Years of the adverse reports did create hatred towards plastic bottles, and the beverage industry did consider a switch in some containers. The other costs and energy involved in the transportation of aluminum cans are also projected to be lower than that of the plastic bottle. Perhaps one of the overwhelming advantages of plastic is its durability and flexibility. Despite no clear advantage of these advantages shown above, Forbes data show that there will be an increase in the PET bottle consumption across the globe. I suspect that the plastic bottle's whole cost involved in the production and transportation is still lower than aluminum cans, which will lead to the lower price tag of those packed in plastic bottles. The reason is lying in the past. Aluminum cans were usually beers or other costly soft drink containers. Therefore, the obstacle to aluminum cans' future wasn't its fundamental environmental cost, but its fundamental price stipulated by humans. The first battle slot is about the unnoticed environmental impact behind the stage. The second battle slot is about the payment and cost behind the scenes despite the possible good environmental impact. What I want to draw my whole argument based on these comparisons should not solely focus on the comparisons themselves, but also the things behind the scene. Ecological thought, as Martin noted, was about math. Therefore, I have reasons to suspect the institutional level behind why they do so, say embracing new substitutes while not doing so. Do they have any concerns with other things? There may be no good substitute at present. However, I need to suspect one point here. If people realize other options' possible detrimental impact, how can there be a possibility of against the plastic bottle? Therefore, I suspect if there are untold reasons behind these huge companies, they are hiding something. From an economic perspective, aluminum cans may not appear to be a good variable. What does the message behind it imply? Companies for higher profits gave up opportunities to protect the environment. The search for substitute, after all, is only a performance performed by the wealthy people. Global companies under the Anthropocene environment, which I personally call a globalized era, again and again expand their influence in different countries. This is a war driven by capitalism and interest to some extent. What companies hope is to push more people relying on them. The question made me connect to another thing. Water as life's necessity is inevitable for any humans. In the past, it is mostly through wells and original lakes. Now, complicated water supply system and different packaging mineral water took their seat across the globe. The last time we are experiencing a considerable change in our culture and lifestyle in Anthropocene is colonialism, competing for natural resources, human powers, and world influence. We are now experiencing a new colonialism driven by the need for water, something that companies claim to be their own place of interest and rejecting other kinds of influence penetrating their market. Well, on the one hand, we are blaming water packaging as bad for the environment in a wealthy community. On the other hand, there are millions of people under today's water scarcity believing bottled water to be one reliable alternative. A change in the water market from plastic bottles into either glass or aluminum cans will result in its high price tag and lose the market, which eventually will result in losing control by a place for a place. That finally reminds me one final thing. One of the reasons we define this era as Anthropocene is that humans can be in charge of everything. Ironically, price is something that human-made ideas. Demonstrated above, it became the tool for humans to put things in order, including countries' development levels, people's living standards, and environmental stipulation. Because this is anthropocene, it conformed to the idea that humans' actions on saving nature somehow could not free themselves from the limitation that humans pose on them. Plastic, in just a few years, became one of the dominant materials across the globe, reason for its cheap price. Aluminum can didn't even start its journey and was throttled by human stipulation. The glass bottles will finally end in history due to its high price. We have a very long way to go to make our Anthropocene a good one, to break the obstacle of the price of cost. Perhaps refillable container will be a good choice. But how? Why? How can we make it? How can we make the refillable container cheap and easy to carry with? That is a problem we need to think about.